I know self-publishing's not for everyone. Nothing is. But if you've considered self-publishing for even a minute, listen up, because I'm betting I know what's holding you back from exploring it further or getting started. Number one, you think the self-publishing process is a lot harder than it actually is. And number two, you're understandably afraid of doing it, air quote, wrong. So I've created a new free resource for you. It's called the Self-Publishing Starter Kit, and you can get instant access to it by clicking the link in the show notes or visiting publishaprofitablebook.com/self-publishing 101. In this free training, you'll discover the exact 4 steps to focus on and mistakes to avoid so you can publish an incredible book that's indistinguishable in quality from a New York Times bestseller without overthinking, overguessing, or overspending in areas that won't make a difference. Again, visit publishaprofitablebook.com/self-publishing 101 to get instant access. Welcome to the Write the Damn Book Already podcast. My name is Elizabeth Lyons. I'm a 6-time author and book editor, and I help people write and publish powerful, thought-provoking, wildly entertaining books without any more overthinking, second-guessing, or overwhelm than absolutely necessary. Because let's face it, some overthinking, second-guessing, and overwhelm is going to come with the territory if you're anything like me. I believe that story and shared perspective are 2 of the most potent ways we connect with one another, and that your story, perspective, and insights are destined to become someone else's favorite resource or pastime. For more book writing and publishing tips and solutions, and plenty of free and low-cost resources, visit publishaprofitablebook.com. Okay, welcome everybody. Today is going to be good. I don't know if you've been following along over on Instagram, but I'm doing a 3-month, I'm calling it a 3-month or a 12-week experiment, but that's not really a fair word because it suggests that I'm experimenting, and I am, because we're always experimenting in the author space. But it's with author ads on Amazon, using Amazon to run ads to your book on Amazon. And calling it an experiment suggests that I've not done it, and I have done it. So I've been running ads pretty consistently, honestly, on Amazon since 2018. So about 6 years now. And over on Instagram, I actually showed screenshots of exactly how much I have spent on ads, how much I have sold on ads, not earned, because there's a difference between money that comes in and profit. But I clarified that in the carousel. So I'll put a link to the whole post in the show notes so you can check it out if you want to. And you can also see from the graph when I was running ads and when I had paused on those ads. And I have paused on the ads for a variety of reasons. But recently I had a client approach me and say, I want to get Amazon ads started, and I'm starting from scratch and I have absolutely no clue how to make this work. Can you help me? And so while I was very clear with her that I can't guarantee anything with ads, nobody can, just like PR, nothing's a guarantee. I for sure know how to set them up. And I've been following a lot of discourse over the years on what works and what doesn't work on Amazon ads. It's changing, not all the time, but often enough that what worked in 2018 definitely isn't still the recommendation here in 2024. I mean, you can do whatever you want, but the goal is to get to an understanding of ads before you've spent your full budget. And so with all of that knowledge, I thought, okay, let's give this a go. And her ads out of the gate did incredibly well. Now, I want to be super clear that that's not because I'm a genius when it comes to ads. I did know how to set them up effectively and efficiently, and we did that. And she has a very clear market. So the people who are looking for her book are looking for something very specific. She also has a good bit of competition in the space, though. So even within the people who are searching for her topic, we needed to hone the keywords, and we need to continue to hone the keywords a bit over time so that we grab exactly who's looking for her book versus who's looking for another book. So as a perfect example of this, there are a lot of books in her book space that are very Christian based. They're devotionals. Hers is not. So we don't want to spend money advertising to folks who are looking specifically for a more scripture-based book. So things like that still need honing and refining, but our ability to get her set up relatively quickly, relatively properly, led to a great out of the gate experience as opposed to not so much. So when that happened, I thought, my God, why am I not running these now for my books? And I got this idea to run a 12-week experiment. And again, I called it an experiment for two reasons. One, I was going to document the whole thing live, which is risky, yes, because what if it goes horribly wrong? And I also was like, if it doesn't work, I'm still fully committed to figuring it out. Because that's the thing with all of this is if you're like me, you are somebody who tries something for 2 weeks and it doesn't work and you don't make the $1.5 million that someone claims that they made in 3 days. And then you declare that it's not working. You don't know what you're doing. You're wasting your money and your time and you quit. That was me for so many years. So if you too are like that at all, I completely get it. And one of the things that I've learned over the last many years, and this is why I even wrote Enough, which is my 5th book, The Simple Path to Everything You Want. It's simple, but it's not easy. Part of it is patience and persistence. Pick one thing and stick with it and just commit because you can be successful on any platform, whether it's ads, book sales, social media, it doesn't matter. You can find your definition of success anywhere, but you might not find it in 17 days. That's an entirely different topic, which if it interests you, I encourage you, I invite you to grab a copy of Enough. I've actually got it over on my website, the audio version for $4.99, which is the least expensive you'll get it anywhere. So I'll put a link to that in the show notes too. So when I launched into this experiment with Amazon ads, I did not have as smooth a start as my client did. And I purposely picked a tricky book to advertise. So I picked Write the Damn Book Already, which is my 6th book and the most recent one that I wrote. And the reason that it's tricky, it would also be tricky, by the way, to do this for Enough or for You Cannot Be Serious, which are 2 other books of mine. The low-hanging fruit, if I wanted to make this look easy, see the air quotes, is I would have done Holy Shit, I'm Having Twins. And the reason is that book sells on autopilot. I don't know why. I have an idea of why, which is that it's a very specific niche of reader who's looking to get their books on just about anything they can get their hands on when it comes to the first year with twins. If they know they want something lighthearted and funny and strategies filled, my book is an obvious choice. It's been out for so long that Amazon and selling consistently for so long that Amazon returns it in search results easily. And it has a lot of good reviews. I mean, it has an average of 4.5 stars on Amazon with like 150 or 160. I don't know what the number is right now, but reviews. So all those things help. But when you're just getting started with a book, you don't have all of that necessarily. And most of the people with whom I work are just getting started. So it's not fair, I don't feel, to come in and say, okay, I've made $2.5 million on, which by the way, I haven't, but to come in and say, I've made $2.5 million on ads and I can show you my process, because that's like comparing someone who has climbed Mount Everest to someone who's can barely walk around the block at this point. It's not entirely fair unless the person who is just getting started walking around the block has their expectations properly set, that it's going to take a minute. With all of that in mind, it's been 2 weeks. It will be 2 weeks tomorrow since I started running the ads for Write the Damn Book Already. And I want to let you in on my top 3 recommendations for setting up Amazon ads that I've learned over the last 2 weeks that are very much different from what I learned 6 years ago. And the learning of this happened about a week in, and it's finally allowed me to start converting into the positive, not only with sales numbers, but with profit. And it's not by a landslide. Like I'm not paying my mortgage yet with profits from Amazon ads. But as long as you are spending $1 and making $1.02, over time, you can scale that.
Let's take a quick break.
If you're just getting started on your self-publishing journey, it can be overwhelming to consider all of the tasks in front of you. Even if you've been listening to podcasts and reading and watching videos on how to self-publish, putting all the bits and pieces together while worrying about whether you're doing it correctly can be quite stressful. It helps to have a clear list of action steps so you're confident in exactly what you should be doing first, second, and third. Luckily, I've outlined all of this for you in my program, Publish the Damn Book Already. And for a limited time, as a podcast listener, you can get 25% off with code AUTHOR25. This course provides you with a step-by-step blueprint to a published book that is indistinguishable in quality from a book published by the big guys, while saving you time, money, and excessive handfuls of stress-relieving salt and vinegar potato chips. We tackle everything from how to find an incredible editor to partnering with a top-notch and reasonably priced cover designer to uploading to distribution channels like Amazon, bookshop.org, and bookstores. If this is going to be the year you finally get your book published, head on over to publishaprofitablebook.com/publish and get started. Remember to use code AUTHOR25 to get 25% off. To where you are making however much it is that you desire to make from something. The challenge is when that ultimate number is, let's pretend if I told you today, if you invest $30,000 in ads or in the stock market, which is basically the same thing, in a year, let's just call, or in a month, let's say if you're investing $30,000 in a month, in that month, you'll make $30,050, right? Even if it's just a net profit of $50, you'd say, okay, that's a safe investment. But if I say to you, well, you need to start with $30,000 a month and you have absolutely no idea if you're going to lose all of it, which you probably will if you're starting that high, it's not, who's going to do that? Nobody's going to do that. Or you're going to do it and you're very much going to regret having done it. So I'm not even going to include, I think a lot of times it would be easy to include step one, have patience and persistence. I'm not going to include that as one of my recommendations because that should be obvious at this point if you have been paying attention to me, even just for this episode of this podcast. Patience and persistence. I don't care what area of business you're in. I don't care. It's required. If that means that you keep your other job while you're building your new business to be consistent, that's what I recommend. If that means you get a second job while you're building it to be consistent and scalable, that's what I recommend. And the timeline is different for everyone because the variables are different for everyone. So that's probably a separate topic altogether. And it is one I talk about in enough. And it's one I talk about in different podcasts and here and there because I'm really passionate about it and it's important. So let's get that out of the way. Patience and persistence is required. So that's just like a free tip, but hopefully I don't even have to give it. Number one, many Amazon ads, there are a lot of courses out there and a lot of them are really good. So I want to be really clear about that. I can only speak to the ones that I've participated in, but there's also a lot of good and not so good advice on places like YouTube for running Amazon ads. Just like everywhere, guys, like there's good advice and there's bad advice. So one of the pieces of advice I heard recently that made sense, and I'm not saying it's bad advice, by the way, but having tried it, because back in the day, when you select keywords for your Amazon ads, you get to select a category for those keywords. And those categories are broad, phrase, and exact. For Write the Damn Book Already, one of my phrases or one of my keywords was book writing. Makes sense, right? Because you start at the macro level. Like what's the top uppermost thing that people would be searching when they go in to look for a book like yours? So book writing. If you put in that you want that to be the exact phrase, just to give you a quick lesson here on this, that means that someone literally types into their search bar on Amazon, book writing, no other words, just book writing. That is an exact phrase or an exact keyword. I'm sorry, that's an exact keyword. A phrase keyword would be something like writing a book or book about nonfiction writing. So it incorporates the terms book and writing, but it also incorporates other words and it can flip the words around. So it gives you a little bit more of I want to say broad, but I don't want to confuse anyone, like a wider net. You're casting a wider net. The third category, broad, is just that, broad. So if you have book writing and someone puts in the search field that they're looking for a book, let's say that the term they put in there is writing about whales or even book about whales. Until the algorithm gets clear that your book is about book writing, it might actually serve up your ad to someone who types book about whales or writing about whales. And one would hope that somebody wouldn't click on a book titled Write the Damn Book Already, tell your story, share your message, when they're looking for a book about whale, right? But surprisingly, they do. And then you pay for that. So one of the beauties of Amazon ads is, and this is what makes it a little bit different from meta ads, meaning Instagram and Facebook ads, is you're not paying by the impression. You're not paying based on the number of times someone sees your ads. You're only paying if someone clicks on it. So the goal is to make sure that the vast majority of people who click on your ad are going to end up buying it. That's how you ensure that you aren't wasting money. So one particular YouTube video that I saw recently suggested that you start with all broad terms. And I thought, well, I'm going to give that a shot because I've never done that before. I very quickly removed that from my process and from my recommendation. I understand on some level why some genres maybe might do that, but it casts such a wide net that you have to be willing and able, in my opinion, to be extremely patient on figuring out what people are actually searching for. And there is a way to do that, which this gets a little bit more layered into the how of Amazon ads. But if you're willing to do that, fine. But I converted pretty quickly and created a second ad set. I stayed with the same ad campaign, but I set up a second ad set that used all the same keywords, but just made them phrases and exact keywords, no more broad. So I turned off the first ad set where all those keywords were broad, created a second ad set where everything was just exact and phrase. And now I'm looking to see what they're doing, which brings me to the second point. Have a limited number of keywords. Back in the day, so let's go back to like 2018 to I'd say 2021 maybe, the recommendation was have as many the more keywords, the better. And the prevailing wisdom was 250 to 300 keywords. Well, when you need to go in every day, and you do, and assess what are people searching and what are people clicking on and what clicks are leading to orders versus where are you getting a lot of clicks that aren't leading to orders. In other words, you're spending money that isn't helping you in any way, shape, or form to get an order. That is so laborious. I think that's why I quit, because I was following that wisdom. And in some genres and in some situations, it probably works well. But if you're starting small on a small budget, and you know you're going to employ patience and persistence, and you can because your budget is small enough that you can tolerate that and not flip out every day that you've just spent however many dollars and oh my God, it's gone, and look at it that way, then having 250 plus keywords is not the way to go. So I started this campaign with 20 keywords. I saw what was working and I knew I would add in because I was adding in based on what people were actually searching that was leading to an order that I hadn't anticipated. So an example of that is the keyword inspiration for book writing. That is exactly what the person typed into their search thing in Amazon. My book popped up. It had one impression. It had, for that keyword, it had one click, it had one order. That is that if I could create the ideal situation, that's how it would be. It would have more than one impression. It would have 100 impressions, 100 clicks, and 100 orders. But I hadn't ever targeted that keyword. So I added inspiration for book writing as an exact keyword for that ad set. So now I believe I have 51 keywords total, and if I add one, it'll be by deleting another or archiving another. I only want to look at most 30 keywords a day. And the way that you do that is also a little bit layered down. But when you're in your ads, you can actually filter what people are searching from the top number down, meaning, okay, you had 10 clicks on this. You can filter it by clicks and you can filter it by orders. So the first thing I do is I filter by orders. And I say, okay, I've had 4 orders. Let's put those at the very top, because if a keyword hasn't had an order yet, I'm not as focused on it. The next most important thing I'm focused on is keywords that have had clicks but no orders. Because if it's an entirely irrelevant keyword, I'll give you an example. Creative writing books. That showed up as a Someone searched for creative writing books. Someone also searched for books on writing dialogue. Those were the two things someone put into the search thing. It returned my book. My book is not a creative writing book, nor is it a book about writing dialogue. So I could turn those, I didn't turn them off. I added them in as negative keywords because then oh, I don't want to show up for that. That's not what my book is about. So all of this is about casting whatever size net you want to cast. And then think of like, I'm not a fisherman, but think of like the fishing and, you tighten the net. You make it smaller and smaller and smaller so that you have the biggest chance of getting the most bang for your buck. So number one, start with phrase and exact keywords, no broad keywords. Number two, start with say between 20 and 30 keywords and know that you're probably going to increase that to say 50, but no more than about 50. The third thing is raise your budget slowly. One of the beauties of Amazon ads is that they like won't take my money. So even if you start, and for everybody, this is happening with my client too, when you start with $3 a day as an example, which is what I typically start with, it will take 4 to 7 days on average for Amazon to start maximizing that, but like taking that whole budget. Where I got into a little bit of air quote trouble with this particular ad was a few of my keywords required a high bid, like $1.50 or more in order to show up high in the search results. And so 2 clicks, I would blow through my budget and I'd be done for the day. So I had to turn off those keywords because unless I can show that those are going to generate a sale most of the time, my profit margin's too small. Like I'm not going to spend that on a click, especially if it's about a book or a search term that's completely irrelevant. But it'll likely take you a little bit of time to hit your budget. So my client whose ads are doing really, really well, we started her at $5 a day. And even after 15 sales, she still hadn't hit her budget. So the thought that you can raise it and it'll reach more people isn't entirely accurate. You almost want to wait until you've maxed out your budget for the day and you're profitable on it, and then you start raising it. But don't go from $5 a day to $10 a day because then the algorithm scrambles to keep up and it might start slipping a little bit and showing the ad to people that it shouldn't because it's trying to work for you, but you've raised the temperature too quickly. So I tend to increase my budget by $1 a day, maybe $2 a day, depending. But again, it's slow. It's patient and persistent tightening of the net. And it's like a bigger net in a smaller area of the ocean. And just those 3 things have already made such a difference in my little experiment that I wanted to share them with you so that if you're just getting started or if you've tried this once and felt like, oh my God, this is so overwhelming, I don't even know where to begin, try these. Try any one of them. And keep a super low budget. Even start at $2 a day, or I think you can do $1 a day. I think that's the bare minimum. And just know I'm going to spend $30. I'm going to let this go for 30 days. I'm going to spend $30 before I know how this is doing. And then I'm going to reassess and just budget for it. So one thing, and I'm going to put it in the show notes, and it's not required, but one tool that has made my life with Amazon ads abundantly easier, truly simpler and easier. And I also use it for identifying what keywords to put in my Amazon listings when I list my book, is a software called Publisher Rocket. This tool, it's a one-time payment, and the bang for the buck on this thing is just, I can't even believe it. It is so helpful, but it's what I use to generate all of my keywords, to see what the competition's keywords are, what their keywords are, to see what category keywords are typically, so that Amazon is categorizing my book correctly from the jump. And in the first couple of videos I made, in fact, in the very first video I made, which I will also put in the show notes, I walk you through exactly how I set up. It's on YouTube, believe it or not, exactly how I set up this campaign and exactly how I found my keywords. And I did do it using Publisher Rocket. You don't have to. You could do it manually. I find that Publisher Rocket has just been an absolute lifesaver and time saver for me, and sanity, like all the savers. And there's so much that you can do with it that really helps cut time. It's like there's so much talk now about how using AI is really helpful for productivity. And I agree with that. And I feel the same way about Publisher Rocket. So I'll link that down below. But I just wanted to share some of these and there are going to be more. So stick around over on Amazon. On any of my posts, if you comment author ads, I'll send you the link to the blog post where I'm documenting this whole experiment. And I'm doing it in one blog post so people don't have to click from blog post to blog post to blog post, but I'm breaking it out by week 1, week 2. And as we go on, there's far less information contained within it because the majority of the honing is going to happen in the first, well, for me, it seemingly happened in the first week. And it's still happening. But we start simple, we get fancy later, as Jen DePaula always says. We stay patient, we stay persistent, we stay committed to figuring this damn thing out because people wouldn't be using Amazon ads if they weren't working. It's just that the majority of people for whom they're working were willing to stay committed to figuring it out. So join me. All right, that is it for today. I will talk to you guys again next week. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you enjoyed this episode, this is your friendly reminder to follow or subscribe, leave a quick review, and share it with someone you know has a great story or message, but isn't sure what to do next. Also, remember to check out publishaprofitablebook.com for book writing resources and tips, and to see all the ways we can work together to get your book out into the world. Again, thanks so much for listening, and I'll talk with you again soon.